We are very excited, District Hall Venture Cafe Providence, to be able to sponsor once again the Blue Innovation Symposium. This is the 6th annual Blue Innovation Symposium. And I'm going to hand it right over to you, Toby Stapleton, one of the organizers and founders, I believe, of the Blue Innovation Symposium.
That's right, Tony. Thanks for having us. And it's great to be here to talk about the Blue Innovation Symposium, which is New England's largest blue technology conference. This year, taking place virtually on February 2nd from 2 to 4, with networking and flash talks to follow. But before we get into that, I just want to thank District Hall and Venture Cafe Providence for helping us to get the word out about the conference. The programs that you guys have been running have been so important to getting the word out about what's happening in innovation and technology in the region. So thanks, we very much appreciate it. And what we've put together today is sort of the dream team of Blue Tech and the organizing committee of the Blue Innovation Symposium. We're joined by Aaron Donahue, who is the trade commissioner responsible for defense and marine technologies at the Consulate General of Canada in Boston. We have Roger Race, an industry veteran and director of innovation with Dartmouth Ocean Technologies, and Justin Manley with Just Innovation, again, a industry veteran. And in some circles, you can say just Roger or just Justin, and they'll know exactly who you're talking about when it comes to marine tech. So as I mentioned, this conference is the largest blue, and we define blue as anything that touches or goes into the water. So in New England, that means defense tech, it means underwater autonomous vehicles, sensors, sensor platforms, but it also means aquaculture, traditional fisheries, energy, and especially offshore wind. We're going to see an increase not only in interest, but in activity when it comes to offshore wind because of New England's place in the industry. And so we'll see more companies not only come into New England, but we'll see more startups who are looking to address the major challenges being faced by all of those industries: defense, seafood, aquaculture, offshore wind. And the agenda that we've put together really gets to the heart of the Blue Innovation Symposium, which is to educate, engage, and connect the blue tech industry with the happenings around the world. So I'm going to let Justin Manley talk about the agenda that he's put together this year and sort of the who and the why we have the panelists and the speakers that we do this year. So Justin, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. And, I think a really interesting comment, or a few interesting comments, as we talk about the agenda, right? So those who are familiar with the Blue Innovation Symposium know we typically gather in person, and there's a lot of camaraderie and networking. We've had to adjust, as has everyone else on the planet, but we're actually using those adjustments to a virtual forum for this February event to the advantage of the agenda. And essentially, we're bringing as many viewpoints and perspectives as we can into our 2-hour program. So we're going to have a fairly dense panel. Panel is going to be moderated by Melanie Nadeau, who is the new CEO of the Center for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship. Again, longtime followers of the Blue Innovation Symposium know that we have a strong partnership up in Canada, and thanks Aaron and the consulate for helping to enable that. So Melanie is going to moderate our panel, and it's going to include a series of technologists. Some of these are startup companies, and some of them are more mature entrepreneurs whose companies have actually been acquired more recently. And they're going to talk to us about technologies ranging from aerial drones that can engage the ocean environment to surface vehicles and undersea vehicles, as well as instrumentation technologies. We're also going to hear from a couple of startup companies who are participating in what our friends up in Canada call the Ocean Startup Challenge, which is an entrepreneurial effort. There are 2 prize winners from phase 1, that would be Seahawk Robotics and Dartmouth Ocean Technologies, are joining the panel. And then we'll have here from New England, we're going to have Dive Technologies, a UUV provider, participating. We're also going to have BAE Fast Labs, the new parent company of Riptide, who was a small entrepreneurial focused UUV provider here in New England. And then again, I mentioned we are bringing in an international view. So we'll round out the panel with a company coming to us from Australia who are pioneering a wind powered USV, doing some very exciting things down in Australia. And in fact, Australia is also where our keynote speaker hails from. So our keynote speaker, Professor Matt Dunbabin from Queensland University of Technology, is working on projects to develop robot technology for supporting coral reef restoration. And specifically, he's building robots that plant coral larvae. Some very exciting work. And again, we're February in New England. We're looking forward to some sights and sounds. Unfortunately, not the feel of the sun and the surf of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, but it'll be a little welcome break for us in the heart of winter to hear from our robotics colleagues down under. So in a nutshell, that's the program we're looking at. It will be very dense, and there'll be a lot of content in a very short period of time. And we're really looking forward to sharing that with our audience.
Great, thanks, Justin. And since you brought up the relationship with Canada, we're going to turn things over to Aaron. As many of you know, Canada has been lighting the world on fire in terms of its investment in blue technology. Not only do you have the Center for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship, COVE, which Justin mentioned, but you also have the Ocean Supercluster. And the Blue Innovation Symposium has been fortunate to have partnered with Aaron and the Consulate General of Canada in Boston over the last 6 years to make sure that we're engaging companies on both sides of the border. So Aaron, maybe you can talk a little bit more about that partnership and about all of the things that are happening that Justin mentioned. Maybe you could dive deeper there. So Aaron?
Hey, thanks, Toby, and thanks for having me join you. Certainly for Canada, the ocean economy is a really big part of their future. Currently, it employs 350,000 Canadians and contributes 36 billion to Canada's GDP. So it's an area that Canada has always been focused on. And as Toby alluded to, in recent years, we've seen the rise of the Canadian Ocean Supercluster, which is a joint public-private collaboration that puts together projects that are cross-sectoral and cross-cutting in the ocean sector. As of 2020, they had $90 million worth of projects in the pipeline for the Ocean Supercluster. And when it comes to Canada and New England, we've always had historic ties in the ocean technology industry. There are a number of companies who are located on both sides of the border. Our competencies, particularly for Canada, people, when they think oceans, they do think seafood and they think shipbuilding, but Canada and New England both have really strong capabilities in the subsea realm. So as we've already said, underwater robotics, marine sensing, seabed mapping, simulation, all of those are areas where you have really strong capabilities on both sides of the border. So there's always been natural connections between Canada and New England. But our office has been involved with the Blue Innovation Symposium from the beginning, in part because my role is really to work with Canadian companies to help them foster connections and partnerships here in New England. I was looking for ways to get a group of Canadian companies to come down to this region and make some connections, make some introductions. And it happened to be at the same time that I think Toby and Roger were discussing this potential event, which was relatively small the first year. I want to say it's maybe 100 people, but has really, as Toby notes, grown to be the largest blue tech conference on the East Coast. And for our Canadian companies, it's a really valuable time to come down, connect with existing customers and partners, meet new customers, and learn about what's going on in this region, because as we said, there's just so many natural connections. In the past few years, another thing that we're seeing happen on both sides of the border is this rise in startup programs that are targeting blue tech. Traditionally, blue tech had been left out of some of the early incubator startup programs that you saw maybe for life sciences or for IT. But both sides of the border now are really active in identifying and supporting blue tech startups. So Justin mentioned the Ocean Startup Challenge, which is taking place in Canada. I know in Rhode Island, you of course have Mass Challenge, just focusing on blue tech, and a few other groups here. So we're seeing more resources, particularly for young companies that are interested in getting into this space. And I think that's another valuable contribution that the Blue Innovation Symposium makes, is really helping these young companies make connections and understand where the opportunities are in this region. So I'm really looking forward to this year. You know, obviously we would vastly prefer to have everyone come down in person, but in some ways virtual does offer some new opportunities. Initially, we have 10 to 15 Canadian companies attend this event, which is pretty significant. But I put out a call for registrations a few days ago, and I think I already have 20 Canadian companies that are signed up to attend this quickly. So without the limitations you have on geography and money, we're actually seeing more companies connect. And Toonie, I've been very happy to see a number of Canadian companies jumping on some of your Venture Cafe virtual programs. So I think this new reality, while it has its challenges, it also offers some new ways to connect. And I'm hoping that we can find that with this year's virtual symposium.
Great, thanks, Erin. And as you mentioned, this Blue Innovation Symposium on February 2nd is likely to be our most international conference ever. I mean, we now are able to engage speakers from Australia because it's a virtual conference that we never would have been able to do. And the conference has grown from I think we had 75 people at that first conference, maybe close to 100. And today we regularly host around 300 participants, 50 corporate partners, and because this is virtual, we expect a large number of international, including the Canadians will be the largest contingent. But there's another thing that you mentioned that I think is a good segue. It's that cross-border relationship. We're seeing companies that are not only partnering across the border, but forming up and leveraging partnerships. And I think Dartmouth Ocean Technologies is really an interesting example, the interesting technology that they're working on, and an interesting example. And as Justin and you mentioned, Erin, winners of the Ocean Startup Challenge, which I was fortunate to be a part of this year, along with Seahawk Robotics. So a really interesting panel. But Roger, maybe you could talk more about the Blue Innovation Symposium, since you're one of the organizers, but let us know what Dartmouth Ocean Technologies is working on too.
Well, thanks, Toby, and hello, everyone. Really great to be here. I think it's fascinating. We're going into our 6th year of the Blue Innovation Symposium, and we're now getting really a lot of interest around the world, and it's fascinating. We always designed this to be for the companies, by the companies, and for the people, and it's worked out very, very well. And we did not want a large chunk of time to go by. In other words, wait for the entire pandemic to go by without saying something. I know in my case, Dartmouth Ocean Technologies, we've started a new company. We've come up with new sensors using lab-on-chip technologies. We've been the beneficiary of the Ocean Supercluster investments, and we're doing work down here. So we're going back and forth between Halifax, well, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and Dartmouth, Massachusetts. And we're doing fine in this new virtual reality. It's really kind of fun. I miss being out with everybody, but quite honestly, this new reality is working for some folks anyway. And we're able to draw all that technical knowledge from Dalhousie and the Cove, and then put it in play down here with our friends at Woods Hole Oceanographic or URI. And it's just wonderful to see the collaboration that's going on. And that's something that we want to stress. We really want the tide to come in for all the boats here. We're always happy to educate and happy to engage everyone. And I think this new virtual reality, by keeping it short and pithy, it'll be very successful. So we're happy to participate. And I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to say, look, there's lots of stuff still going on, lots of invention going on, and new companies starting up even in the middle of this pandemic and doing okay. As you said, we're beneficiaries of the Ocean Supercluster, and it's worked out very well. We now have, since March, we've hired 8 new people. We've employed a bunch of new students. It's been great. And the new technology we're coming up with lab on chip and phosphate sensors is going to be a game changer, which will ultimately lead to a fascinating world of environmental DNA, where we can have smaller, better, faster analysis of what's going on in the ocean water column and the DNA that's swimming by. It'll be fascinating. We'll be able to put that on drones, put that on surface vessels and underwater vehicles, and share with the whole community. So we're happy to participate. I can't wait for Groundhog Day again, and we will have a great event. Thank you, Toby, for all your hard work.
Thanks, Roger. And yeah, so tune in not only to see how we manage having folks from Australia dial in at what is 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning their time, but also to hear about all of the great innovations that are taking place in marine tech, as well as asking questions like, how does Dartmouth Ocean Technologies, Seahawk Robotics, and others in the marine tech sector launch a company in COVID, during a time of pandemic, and survive? How are things going? And so I think there's some key business lessons that can be learned in addition to diving deep, if, as it were, on blue technology and marine tech. So again, tune in on February 2nd for what is a very concise and full, dense, as Justin put it, conference on marine technology. And you can learn more by going to blueinnovationsymposium.com, the website, and there you can find more information about sponsors, the agenda, and register, most importantly. And I should also mention, there's an opportunity to deliver flash talks this year. So you can email info@blueinnovationsymposium.com. If you're interested in getting more information about how to deliver a flash talk this year. So I want to thank Justin, Aaron, and Roger for helping put together what is going to be, for sure, the first and best conference so far in blue technology of 2021 on February 2nd. And again, Toonie, Jordan, we can't thank you enough for the work, not only this, but the work that you do in general to promote all of the great things that are happening within the ecosystem around things like offshore wind and innovation. It's really key that we have the kind of programming that you do. So thanks again, and we'll see you on February 2nd.
Thank you, Toby, Aaron, Roger, Justin. Always a pleasure to work with you. Looking forward to it. And we'll add the recording of this video to our Blue Innovation playlist on our YouTube channel, District Hall Providence. We also have a YouTube playlist for offshore wind. So for anyone listening, please jump over to YouTube, District Hall Providence. And I think you're all featured in at least one or two of those videos. Looking forward to Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks.